First of all, I want to thank everyone for their support and for being with us this morning on this, my last Sunday to preach for this wonderful congregation. Before I go any further, I want to say especially thank you to Aaron, Reverend Aaron, for being our digital liturgist during the sabbatical. She has been a marvelous blessing to this congregation, to me personally, attempting to serve you at my best. And Aaron, bless you and your spouse. And we pray, we meditate, we hope that the world unfolds for you in marvelous ways, because sister, you deserve the best. Thank you for what you have shared with this congregation. Tim Dickerson once said in a meeting, he said, Reverend Aaron is all that we expected and so much more. And so thank you, Aaron, for all that you have done. And I want to thank the staff for their cooperation and working with me while I've been the sabbatical minister. I know that they haven't always understood everything I wanted to do, but they work with me anyhow. And so I thank you for that. I thank them for that. The second thing is that I want to thank the board and congregation as a whole. You all have shown us love and support throughout these 4 months. Thank you, Reverend Molly, for giving me this opportunity. I never anticipated being even a sabbatical minister in a UU church, and this has just been absolutely wonderful experience. So thank you for the opportunity to share one or two little gifts that I have with all of you. My friend, my mentor, the Reverend C.A.W. Clark said, let me get to what I need to say, lest I keep you too long. My final words to you is to fight the good fight. The music, the singing, the readings have all been put together to encourage us that, ladies and gentlemen, we need to fight the good fight. Let me start with the following. In the beginning of my ministry, some 40 years ago, I used to avoid all of that kind of militaristic battle language in preaching and worship, etc. You got to remember that I was a child of the 70s, 60s, and 70s. Vietnam was on our mind, that we were bombarded with militarism. And I was like, worship should not be about that. And so I rejected all of those images and all of those symbols about war and fighting. And then it dawned on me as I got older, and particularly now, ladies and gentlemen, we are at war. We are in a battle. We are in a war against racism. We are in a war against sexism. We are in a war against homophobia. We are in a war against police brutality, against racial injustice, and economic disenfranchisement. We are at war. If you don't believe we're at war, how come the majority of states in this union now are working on voter suppression laws? If you don't think we're at war, how come that even if you live in a idyllic part of Colombia, you've noticed that the homeless population has grown in tremendous ways? We are at war. And you Unitarian Universalists, and I don't care where you are, those of you who are listening to me this Sunday, baby, you better get it in your head. We are at war. You don't think that you have an enemy? You don't think you have haters who want to stop this idea about a beloved community, about speaking truth in love, about having a welcoming community? You think the Oath Keepers agree with you? You think that the Proud Boys want you to continue in the ministry in which you're moving? We are at war. And it's because we're at war, we have to know how to fight the good fight. let me drop these on you, and then I'm gonna get out of your way. First thing is ladies and gentlemen, not only you who are UUs, but those of you who are listening to me across the country and other parts of the world, ladies and gentlemen, first things first, get rid of all of the garbage and stuff that prevents you from being a good warrior. Get rid of your prejudices, your biases. Look, I've been around too long, and we all have been around each other too much. Just because you have two Black friends doesn't mean you're not a racist. Just because you know a lesbian couple doesn't mean you're not homophobic. Just because that your girlfriend that you like having coffee and tea with is moving up, it doesn't mean that you're not a sexist. That you got to get rid of all of the prejudices we do, and biases that keep us from being good soldiers in the fight. Look, we got to get rid of that stuff. The Buddha is recorded as saying that it will come. All of our biases and prejudices will come, but we let them in, and then we have to let them out. Just because you grew up in a Christian community that was toxic doesn't mean every Christian is your enemy. Get over your prejudice. Just because you don't happen to be a theist, you don't have all the answers either. Just because that Jeff is and I can use him because he's my friend, is a pagan doesn't mean he's my enemy. We have to get past our biases. We have to get past our prejudices and realize they who are for us are not against us, because it's going to take all of us to be victorious in this fight. Get rid of the stuff. And listen, let me give you part two of get rid of the stuff. Get rid of all that stuff folk try to put on you that they think you need in order to be victorious. There's a quick little story that comes from the Tanakh, and it says that David was getting ready to go fight Goliath, and Saul said, if you're going to go fight a giant, what you need are what I have. And he put his helmet, his armor, his sword, his shield, et cetera, that Saul had, put it on David. And David was toddling under that stuff and thought to himself, I can't fight with this because it's not me. And he threw it all off in order that he could battle the giant Goliath. Hear what I say. Folk will try to put stuff on you. Folk will try to put their stuff on you because they think they know what you need in order to fight the fight. Shake it off. If it doesn't fit you, throw it off. Use what you have in order to be victorious in the battle. Don't let folks put their junk on you. Secondly, is that in order to prepare for war, ladies and gentlemen, we must hold each other's arms up. There's a little story. I love this story. There's a little story about Moses, and Moses is, and the children of Israel are at war. And the children of Israel realize that when Moses holds his hands up, y'all ought to pray with me. When Moses holds his hands up, they are successful in the battle. But when Moses' hands starts to droop, they begin to lose the battle. Excuse me? Ladies and gentlemen, we have to learn how to hold each other's arms up. And let me get real with you. Let me not play with you today because it's my last sermon. You can't fire me. I'm done. Hear what I have to say. You have a great pastor. You have a very good pastor. Hold her arms up. You have tremendous people serving in your ministries, serving on the boards. You hold their arms up. That if you hold each other's arms up, that you will be victorious, because church, You have been called for such a time as this. Oh yeah, we live in a blue dot in a red state, but the state is getting redder. And no one of us, no individual one of us can win the battle on our own. It only is when we hold up each other's arms are we able to take care of the problems in Colombia, because that's what we've been called to do. We are being called to act in love, to be a welcoming community. And we can't do that unless we hold up one another's arms. We cannot win unless we support one another. Doesn't matter what you do in this church. Doesn't matter what you do in your home church. Nobody's job is more important than anybody else's. Hold up one another's arms. Get rid of pettiness. Look, get over the I complex. I am this, I am that. Hold up one another's arms and win the battle. And so the sermon really is pretty simple today. And it goes like this: fight the good fight. I'm glad you all are a reading church. You are a very smart church. And I'm talking to the UUs everywhere in America and in New Zealand and everywhere. You are a really smart church, and you've read everything. But we got to move beyond just reading. We have to fight the good fight. We have to fight against the injustices around us, but we also got to find a way to take care of the environment. Because, ladies and gentlemen, would you want to live in Flint, Michigan? You can't even drink the water. I had to preach in Flint not too long ago. I had to preach in Flint, and I was preparing to go right into the worship, and I got thirsty. And I went into the kitchen, and I got a cup, and I started to fill my cup with tap water, because I don't drink cold water before I preach. I've been preaching too long. It's too hard on my vocal cords. And I put some water in the cup, and someone ran in there like the house was on fire. Reverend, don't drink that. No clean water. We have to fight the good fight. There's a lot of fights. And listen, you all in Colombia, y'all got to fight in your neighborhood. Why is it that every time you all do room at the end, that somebody feels they need to call the police to sit on your parking lot because you got those homeless people in your church? Fight the good fight. Why is it that when we look south of town that we see prosperity and affluence and wealth, and when we look north of town, we see poverty, real poverty? We got to fight the good fight. It's not just about whether or not public schools will teach critical race theory. We teach it. Teach it in your home. Teach it in your parish. Teach it in your community of faith. I didn't learn critical race theory in school. Every teaching, every institution fought against it. But I was willing to listen to folk like, and let me give you an example, Dr. Wiley Miller. Listen. One of my regrets about being in this church is I didn't get a chance to sit down and have coffee with Wiley Miller. Because I want to know, as a Black man in a racist institution, in a discipline that has so few Black folk in it, how did you survive, man? Because somewhere he fought the good fight. I wish I had to spend some time with Steve and ask him, look here, man, I know you don't like talking about it much, but what was it like being a Jewish man in America? How did you survive? I wish some lesbian in this church or some gay man in this church would have taken me and had a cup of coffee and said, this is my story of how I survived in a homophobic America. I survived, they would say, because I was willing to fight the good fight. Fight the good fight, church. Fight the good fight. You got the mind. You have the mettle. You have the passion to fight the good fight. And then number two, finish the course. The text that was read today says, finish the race. The earlier text says, finish the course. And I'm going to really get into Kool-Aid. And I'm going to say it like this, ladies and gentlemen, finish the course. You need an elevator. You can't talk about being a raggedy, wealthy community and don't have an elevator in your church. You have too many people in this church who need the elevator in order to and access to the building. And let me really get with you this morning, because I'm not going to hold back. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Probably cost you like $340,000. That's a lot of money. But let me tell you what I know about you. You're a wealthy church. You've got 10 or 15 families in this church. If they make up their mind, have a coffee clash, get together, and on Tuesday, they could write a check and pay for the whole thing. Finish the course. Take care of the members of this congregation who want to be with you, who want to work with you, but can't because access is not available. Is ableism going to be the doctrine of this church? Finish the course so that this year, put the elevator in. 3 years from now, expand the church, expand the building. 5 years from now, start thinking about how do you expand your ministry in your section of the city. 10 years from now, put together UU2, put together a UU church, sponsor it, birth it in Central Columbia. Because, ladies and gentlemen, your message is needed in this community. Aren't you tired of waking up every morning and hearing about how Johnny shot Ralph? Over what? In this town, the violence in this town. You can't do it now, but you can do it in your future. Put together a UU church for Central Columbia, such that when my neighbor who spent 22 years in the penitentiary can learn about what it means to live free out here in this community. Put together, you got a great religious education director for your church, but we need a religion educator in this community who can teach kids not only tradition, religious tradition, but teach how do you grow up as a Black kid in Columbia and keep your self-esteem? How do you grow up as a Black young man in Columbia and realize that you don't have to be a bully, you don't have to sell dope, that you come from good stock? How do you grow up as a Black girl in Columbia and realize that you come from a great tradition of women? Put together UU2. Finish the course. And then keep the faith. I told you I was a child of the 70s. The 70s were the years of most formative years. I went to high school from 68 to 72. I went to college from 72 to 76. I did my first master's at Princeton from 76 to 79. Those were formative years. And there was a saying that used to go on in those years, and it goes like this: keep the faith, baby. Because the work you have been called to, and I'm not just talking to UUs, I'm talking to folk who are listening to this sermon today, living in all parts of the country. There's going to be some days you're going to get weary and tired. There will be some days when you stand on the side of justice and truth, because we live in America that would prefer a lie rather than the truth, that will make you cry your eyes out. You'll lay in the bed in the nighttime and pull up the covers and be in a fetal position wondering, am I making any difference? You're living in an America where the fight gets to be so tough, the storms of life start raging, and you wonder, how am I going to make it? And the way you make it is you keep the faith, baby. Whether it's like Mr. Gibbons, who's a member of this church, and says, I don't talk so much about a community of faith. I talk about faith in community. Keep the faith. Whether it's in your Buddhist tradition, whether it's in a pagan tradition, whether it's in a theistic tradition or non-theistic, keep the faith, baby, because faith brings all kinds of stuff to you. First of all, it brings remembrance, is that if you want to win the victory, you got to realize the power is in your hand. One more little story. And so remember, the story goes that Moses and the children of Israel have escaped Egyptian occupation and slavery. And they get to the Red Sea, and the people look all around. They see mountains on both sides. They realize Pharaoh's army is behind them to crush them. And they see the Red Sea in front of them, and they can't swim. Oh, I wish I had some help this morning. And they start fussing with Moses. Why did you bring us out here? It was better that we were in slavery. At least we had something to eat. At least we had a place to stay. They start fussing with Moses, and Moses starts to lose his faith. And Moses goes to God and said, God, you hear what these people are saying about me? On and on and on. And God, she snickers and laughs and said, Moses, because remember, El Shaddai, I know we were all taught God, if God exists, God has to be a man bull. That El Shaddai means God with breasts. And so she says, God says, she says, God says, she says to Moses, the power is in your hand. Oh, you folk. Your faith will remind you the power's in your hand. The Christian story goes that just two folk, James and John, turned Jerusalem upside down. The stories of faith say that a few people were able to put together an underground railroad to set captive folks free. A few folks from the UU tradition gave their lives in Birmingham to set folk free on the side of justice. Get in some good trouble because the power's in your hand. Could you imagine what 300 UUs in Columbia could do to turn this town upside down? Power's in your hand. You're smart enough. You're strong enough. You're in positions of power enough. You can do it. So fight the good fight, baby, and keep the faith. And I don't know, all the time I was working on this sermon, I got to go because it's almost time for coffee, and I don't want to hold you too long. There's a little song we used to sing in the church I grew up in, and it goes like this. This may be the last time. This may be the last time. This may be the last time we gather. This may be the last time. I don't know. But I do know this, if there's a next time, I want to hear you say, I have fought the good fight. I finished the course. And Dawson, I've kept the faith. In spite of what they do around us, we kept the faith. In spite of what they said about us, we fought on anyhow. In spite of the difficulties and obstacles, good God Almighty, we finished our race. You can do it. I believe in you. I thank you for this time, and I thank you for this opportunity. Keep on keeping on, because the power is in your hand. Let it be so. Amen.